Hey boys and girls, this video is my recording of me reading the chapters for you so that you are able to complete the questions associated to chapters 6, 7, 8, and 9. So chapter 6 is titled Curdle Me Sour. Chewing my whiskers, I headed off to find the plane. A small sign that said Dirt Cheap, Departing Flights, was tacked to the wall. It looked like some mouse had scribbled it with crayons. I turned down a dark hallway. At the end of the hall stood the plane. My fur broke out into a cold sweat when I saw it. Curdle me sour! Grandfather William had cut costs to the tailbone. The plane was all patched up. It looked like it wouldn't make it off the runway. As I approached, I noticed a mechanic banging his hammer on one of the wings. There, he grunted. Maybe we won't crash this time. I gripped my suitcase tightly and climbed on board. A chubby flight attendant took my ticket. You're in class Z, she informed me. Looks like someone's been cutting costs to the tailbone, huh? She waved me over to the seat number 17. It was a tiny, tattered wicker chair. Instead of a seat belt, there was a piece of string. I tried not to scream. Still, my cold sweat had turned into a cold shower. I sat down carefully, then I tied my string belt in a double knot. Oh, how did I get myself into this mess? Meanwhile, the plump flight attendant was making an announcement. Does anyone wish to buy a parachute? This is your last chance. Take 'em or leave 'em, she snarled. My whiskers trembled. A parachute? I stammered. But why? The flight attendant scowled. Hello in there, she called, tapping my head with her paw. Have you seen what this plane looks like? I stared out my broken window. My double-knotted string belt had already snapped in two. Seconds later, I had selected a red, white, and blue parachute. The flight attendant pointed to the price tag. Curdle me sour, I shrieked. The parachute probably cost more than the whole plane. Does it matter? The flight attendant asked. How much do you value your life? With a sigh, I paid. Just as the engines began to buzz, the flight attendant leaned over me. For the same price, I'll sell you the inner tube too, she whispered. I strongly advise it. After all, we'll be flying over the ocean. One engine started to sputter. It sounded like a cat with a furball stuck in its throat. Things were not looking good. I threw more money at the flight attendant and grabbed the inner tube. Suddenly, a voice screamed over the loudspeaker. Good morning, rodents. This is your captain, Crash Ratjack. My co-pilot today is Ted Simplesnout. I'd also like to introduce our flight attendant, Miss Sally Skinnyfur. In a few minutes, Miss Skinnyfur will be serving you a cheese snack, to everyone except those in Class Z. During the flight, you'll have a chance to watch our movie, Bat, Mouse, and Robin, except, of course, those in Class Z. The restrooms are in the rear of the plane for everyone except those in Class Z, who you've been provided with bedpans. I peeked under my seat. A meadow boar stared back at me. I crossed my legs and tried not to think of streams, waterfalls, or the place where I get my car washed. As the captain signed off, I tried to relax, but I heard the voices. It was the captain and the co-pilot speaking. Simplesnout, did you remember to fill up? Asked the captain. The co-pilot let out an ear-piercing squeak. Slimy Swiss balls, he cried. I completely forgot, boss. But we have a tailwind, so we should make it. You really think so? The captain asked with a sigh. Simplesnout giggled. Sure. Want to bet on it, boss? He said. I say with the tailwind, we just about make it. Anyway, if worst comes to worst, we can always do an emergency landing. It wouldn't be the first one, right? And besides, over there in Egypt, it's full of sand, so we're sure to hit something soft. The captain groaned. Simplesnout, you really are short in the brains department, he declared, but I don't feel like waiting for the fuel truck. Let's just take off and see what happens. I jumped out of my seat in panic. I want to get off, I squeaked. I headed for the front of the plane. The flight attendant blocked my way. "Cheese sticks, it's too late now, you noodle brain!" She shoved me back into my seat. "We're about to take off." The engines buzzed more loudly. The plane took off down the runway. Then it wobbled into the air. I let out a silent scream. My fur stood on end. It really was too late. Too late to get off this plane. Too late to switch flights. Too late to show Grandfather William who the real boss was. I was risking my life on a plane with no fuel, flown by two wacky pilots. Oh, what a day. Chapter 7. How do you do? I'm Daniel E. Dedfer. The plane took off with a sputter and a cough. For the next 2 hours we sailed along without a problem. Then all of a sudden the plane began shaking. No, I don't mean a polite little trembling kind of shaking. I'm talking about violent jerking shaking. It reminded me of the time I got locked in a great uncle's cold paws walk-in freezer overnight. I was shaking so hard from the cold I was seeing double. By the time they found me, I looked like a furry fudge pop. Miss Skinnyfur's voice interrupted my thoughts. "Passengers are kindly requested to hold their passports between their teeth," she instructed. "This way your fur will easily identified in case we crash." I gripped my wicker chair tightly. Maybe if I tried humming a tune I would feel better. I decided. Yes, a happy little jingle might be the trick. But before I could think of one, the mouse behind me beat me to it. Only he wasn't humming a happy tune. He was humming a song that made grown mice cry. It was called "Goodbye, Sweet Cheese, Goodbye." I turned around. I was snout to snout with a very odd-looking mouse. He wore a black wig and was dressed all in purple from his tail to his whiskers. His mustache drooped sadly over his snout. He wore a very unusual watch on his paw. It had a picture of an open coffin with a smiling mouse lying inside. He was reading a book with a dusty cover. It was called A Rodent's Guide to the World's Most Beautiful Cemeteries. I gulped. I wouldn't want to run into this mouse in a dark alley. He was creepier than a ghost cat on Halloween. "Allow me to introduce myself," the sad mouse said in a gloomy tone. "My name is Daniel E. Dedfer. I'm an undertaker." I nodded. "Passengers are kindly requested to hold their passports between their teeth." I nodded. Now, I knew why old Dedfer was so depressed. He spent his life staring at stiffs. With a heavy sigh, the unhappy mouse stared out the window. "Looks like we might crash," he predicted. "Oh, well, I guess you win some, you lose some." My whiskers stood on end. "Holy cheese!" I croaked. The undertaker blinked. "You sound surprised," he said, startled. "You must know air travel is very, very dangerous. Plus, we're sitting right on top of the wing. Did you know the wing is the most dangerous place to be when a plane goes down?" By now I felt faint. I tried taking deep breaths, but my lungs didn't seem to be working. Spots swam before my eyes. "No," I screamed. "I'm too young to go. I haven't climbed Mount Everest yet. I haven't trekked through the great mouse wood forest. And besides, I still have a whole unopened package of cheddar cheese bars at home in my fridge." Too bad no one heard me. I was so scared I had completely lost my squeak. Chapter 8. Frozen with Fear. Terrified, I squeezed my special lucky charm. It was a silver 4-leaf clover. My nephew Benjamin had given it to me for my birthday. A tear slid down my fur. I wondered if I would ever see my beloved nephew again. The plane was jumping up and down like my sister Thea in her step class at Ratzla Lane. I was frozen with fear. Why, oh why, did I get on this rat trip of a plane? Just as I was about to drown in my own tears, we stopped bouncing. The flight attendant made an announcement. "The turbulence is over," she squeaked. "Passengers are requested to keep their seat belts fastened. We'll be landing in half an hour." I heaved a sigh of relief. I knew we would make it, I told myself. But of course I spoke too soon. Seconds later, disaster struck. The engines died. The silence was sickening. did I tell you, Simple Snout?" the captain's voice squeaked. "I won the bet. I told you the fuel wouldn't last." I could hear the co-pilot grumbling. "Okay, boss, I guess you won. Looks like we need to try the emergency landing again," he sighed. My eyes popped open. Emergency landing! Help! I shrieked. I couldn't take it anymore. My nerves were shot. What did I do to deserve this ending? I tried to be a good big brother to Thea. I know I was doting Uncle to Benjamin, and then of course there was my cousin Trap. Well, I guess I could try to be a better cousin, but Trap was so annoying. He loved to play mean jokes on me. Like on my birthday, when he put hot chili peppers in my cheesecake. I stared out my broken window. Think positive, I told myself. The plane circled over the ocean. Then it headed for the desert. It looked like we were about to dive straight into the sand. I squeezed my eyes shut. Then suddenly I heard a noise. Could it be? It was! The engines had started up again. With a jolt, we finally reached Cairo Airport. Wobbling, I headed for the exit. Crunchy cheese chunks, what a nightmare, I squeaked. I'm surprised I didn't die of fright. Daniel E. Dedfer scampered after me. "If you think you're about to go, just give me a call," he said. He handed me his card. I shook my head and bolted out the door. Oh, what a day. Boys and girls, you are going to click on the next video to listen to chapters 9 and chapters 10 before moving on to answering the questions.